Welcome to another DK Custom Products video. Today Kevin and I are going to install a very little product that makes a huge difference, and that is the shift linkage Heim joints.
There's only a few things needed: a 7/16 and a 1/2 inch open end wrench and a pair of Heim joints. The factory joints that come on it are not any good. So behind this shift arm is a nut, and then of course you have the nut on the outside, and we need to break this loose. There we go. So I have the 7/16 wrench on the inside, and I have the 1/2 inch 7/16 on the inside nut right there. You see it's turning it. And then this is a 1/2 inch out here on the outside, and we're just loosening this up so that we can pull this off of here and get rid of that weak ball joint and replace it with a Heim joint, which not only is much smoother when you shift, but it can't fail like these do. And not everybody, you know, before you go leaving in a comment that you've ridden 100,000 miles and yours has never failed. No, they don't all fail. But a lot of them do, and there's no way to know if yours is going to be the one that fails in your garage, a mile from home, 5 miles from home, or 500 miles from home. Mine actually failed only about 3 or 4 miles from home.
So you're saying when the ball joints fail, they fail entirely and they come completely off the shift linkage and leave you stranded?
Yeah, what happens when it fails, this rod drops down to the engine case, and there's no connection between your shift arm and the shifter. You cannot shift.
Right.
Well, you can shift. If you have someone holding the clutch and you reach down with your hand and move the lever back here by hand, which is what I had to do to get out of the road so that I could get to the side of the road and zip tie this together. So we have the nut off of there, and we can pull this out, and you can see that this is just a press. This is just a ball bearing or a round bearing on the end of this pushed into this here, and when it wears out, it just falls. This whole thing stays connected to here but not connected to here. Okay, let's go ahead and take this back one off. And you notice when I took this off, this just came loose. You got to remember when you put it back together where you had it adjusted, because these are adjustable. See the threads on here is adjustable, so you don't want to put it back together with your thing down there or way up here. So you got to sort of remember where you want your shift pegs to be.
Now earlier you mentioned keeping your foot controls in the same position after the installation of the Heim joints. How would you go about doing that?
Well, this was the length that was used to get my shift pegs where I want, so I'm just going to measure from the center of this bolt to the center of that, and it is 12.5 inches. So whether I use the Heim joints on this shift linkage or on my custom shift linkage, I want the bolts to be 12.5 inches apart, because everything is adjustable here. So what I can do right now, if I don't want to spend money on a new shift linkage, I can take the prone to fill ends off of the factory shift rod. Okay, loosen the jam nut, screw this off. Okay, this is one of the few places where you don't need to use thread locker on a Harley. It won't hurt to use thread locker, but I usually don't, because you have the jam nut. And thread this on. Huh? Tighten the jam nut up against it. And then do the other side and then put it back together. Now you're going to have smoother shifting and you're not going to get stuck on the side of the road when one of these little buggers fails.
Right, and as long as you've matched your links from eye to eye, you won't have to make any adjustments to your foot controls.
Exactly. But that's not what I'm going to do today. This is a custom shift linkage that I ran on my 2011 Tri-Glide. Ran on the 14 Tri-Glide. Now I'm putting it on the 19 Tri-Glide. So I'm going to go ahead and put that on instead of putting the factory one back on. Put the jam nut on. And then put this on. And then I'm going to put the bolts through real quick here so I can see where I want to tighten it down. So let's see what 12.5 inches looks like. Center to center. Okay, it needs to be a little bit further out. Center to center. Still needs to be a little bit further out. I think that's probably it right there. That's it. Okay, so like I said, you don't, I usually use thread locker on everything, but with this, since it's using a jam nut, thread locker is not really necessary. Okay, that's it. Then we have our 5/16 by 24 hardware that does not come with the Heim joints. Okay, you need to get that 5/16 by 24, about 1.5 inches long. I'm going to put this through here first. I am putting thread locker on there, and we're going to bolt it right up to the rear shift arm. Now this back bolt probably doesn't need to be 1.5 inches long, but there's nothing, no reason not to have it be that long. There's nothing back there that it's going to get in the way of. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and tighten this. There we go. And then okay, and then I'm going to put some thread locker on here. So I'm going to hold the back while I tighten the front. And because we measured the distance and adjusted the length of the linkage before we put it on, I won't have to do any adjustment after it's on. But if you do need to do adjustment after it's on, let's say you get it on there and you don't like it, okay, you don't have to undo both of them. You can just undo one end, loosen your jam nut, move it forward or back however much you want, and there we go. And there we go. Now I do not have a possibility of sitting on the side of the road with unconnected shift linkage due to the ends failing.
Well, there you go. A very easy install. It makes a big difference. Those Heim joints come in pairs. They come on just under 30 bucks. One of the best mods you can make. One of the mods you can make that won't leave you stranded, because those ball joints wheel fell.
If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. We'd appreciate it.
Hit that notification bell so you'll be updated when our next video comes out.
And if you haven't subscribed to our channel already, please consider doing it. It helps us out a lot and it doesn't cost you anything.
That's right, and y'all ride safe out there.